Our intercultural competency group project. My name is Jay.
My name is Isaiah.
For the summary of what our group talked about was important throughout the semester, we talked about power and how different people have power and don't understand the power that they have and the ability to change people's lives with the power that they have, and effects that actually have on people. Another thing we talked about is the 13 documentary, which was a documentary that we watched on Netflix, which had a lot to do with race, the war on drugs, the prison of pipeline system, the Black Panthers. Talked about different drugs and things like that. It also talked about how people were profiting off of jails and things of that nature. It was a very good documentary. We also talked about privilege and how different people have privilege and don't understand the level of privilege that they have and the advantages that privilege allows them to do and succeed in life. Um, we also talked about demography. We read a book about it. I don't know if I said the word right, but y'all know what I'm trying to say. Basically, the book was going over she was going over the word and how different people in the world use it. What kind of stuck out to me was like the example in the book was like or that we talked about in class was Hitler. Hitler used this form of persuading people to do things that he thought was right. And something that we talked about in class was like Hitler didn't view himself as a bad person. What he thought he was doing, he thought he was actually saving people. He viewed himself as the hero, which in my eyes can be a dangerous thing because people don't genuinely don't think that they're doing wrong, but they're actually hurting so many people, which has a huge effect, on the world, and things of that nature. And a lot of politicians use this form of persuasion in politics to get people to do what they want by not appealing to more facts and things that are proven, but by appealing to people's likes and needs and things of that, and just saying what they want to hear.
So some of the highlights we talked about out of the 13th documentary was prison reform and race populations. In this documentary, it showed how the race population drastically changed and grew as the civil rights movement was going on, and just how people were locked up as soon as they protested, or they could be doing whatever, and they do mass incarcerations. It also went into this program called ALEC, and it was just talking about how they partner with the prisons and fund they fund prison working, like it's just basically like they want the prisoners to work for super cheap, and it's basically modern slavery. And it just, went into depth on how this happened, what communities they were targeting for this type of work. And it talked about the birth of a nation and how it was a film in 1915, and it talked about how um, they depicted black people in that film to look as a villain. It made the hero the Ku Klux Klan, and it really made people look at black people and think this is okay that they're getting incarcerated, because if the media didn't depict us as savages, and you got Hillary Clinton calling us types of animals, and um I think Donald Trump said something too. I'm trying to think of what he said.
Yeah,
Um,
Donald Trump was seen like throughout the news, especially back before his time for presidency, saying how black people are savages and things of that nature. Yeah, for sure.
mhm.
Another thing I could piggyback off of, as Z was saying, how they were targeting different communities. They were definitely targeting different low income communities, which caused what I was talking about earlier, the war on drugs, where people were getting arrested and getting life sentences just for smoking weed, which is now
Yep.
legal, and people are still locked up for these things. But the
Mhm.
reason why is because the prison systems, like Z said, were profiting off of these people working. So it was really just all a scheme to get more people inside of jail. Now, like Z said, you're in modern day slavery where you're working for very low prices, which is barely nothing, and making these corporations outside of jail very rich and profitable. The
Yep.
whole jail system is just a big scheme to make money.
Facts.
From each group member, we were able to observe and realize different things. Trinity talked about demography and democracy, and how she believes that be- after reading the book, she will be less adamant to judge someone for their own opinions, basically basing that off the us versus them um, talk in the book and how that is demagoguery. Um, Jay talked about noticing demagoguery in everyday life and peer-to-peer scenarios, not just professional scenarios. Z talked about um, government profiting from prisoners being in jail and the war on drugs, especially back to those themes talked about in the 13th movie. And for myself, I brought the perspective of toxic masculinity being rooted in society, um, impacting a lot of things in the world, a lot of things in general, and all of those things being because of society's perception of how a man should be.
We believe that what we've learned about intercultural competence and communication will be important to carry not only in our personal lives but also into our professional lives. This is because hopefully more often than not we'll be interacting with people who don't look like us or talk like us or act like us, and yet we always have to remain respectful and in some situations know how to act professionally as well. Specifically though, our group all believed that demagoguery was a really important topic this semester, mainly because we can reduce how susceptible we are to manipulation, whether it's by our government or when it comes to politics. Additionally, though, we hope that we can question not only other people's views, but also our own.
For our Jamboard question, we decided to we said, what are ways you can identify intercultural communication and cultural competency in your everyday life?
And I said something like, if for me moving forward, using my intercultural communication, it really relies on my intercultural competence that I don't know everything about someone else's culture. So I have to come in the conversation humbly, being able and being ready to learn. That's the most important part. The first step, obviously, is breaking the ice with that intercultural communication, but having the competency to keep the conversation going and show that, we can both offer some perspective here.
Yeah, for sure. Like Z was saying, I think one of the biggest things regarding intercultural communication um, is being competent enough to know when viewing different things like in your everyday life in different cultures to approach them like you said with humbleness
Yep.
and being willing to learn. I think willing to learn about different cultures is a big thing due to the fact that nowadays a lot of people do cultural appropriation and don't understand what these cultures are actually talking about or what they mean to that individual culture.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Facts.
Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, your screen sharing is paused. Let me stop recording. Pause.